For as long as the MCU has existed, so has the knowledge that Tom Cruise very nearly played Iron Man. And that even extends into today, where fans are constantly speculating about whether or not Marvel will ever give us that juicy cameo of superior Iron Man played by Ethan Hunt himself. The thing is, I actually think that as time goes on, that is less and less likely to happen.
Not close, you know, and I love Robert Downey, and I can't imagine anyone else doing that role, and I think it's perfect for him.
See folks, what you have to remember is that there is a reason that Tom Cruise fell out as Tony Stark. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the guy could have done any movie he wanted, so if he dropped out of this role, it must have meant that Tom Cruise didn't want to play Iron Man. And true believers, I believe that he still doesn't.
No.
So, in today's video, we are going to talk about the almost casting of Tom Cruise as Iron Man, and we'll get into some of what went down behind the scenes which led to it ultimately falling through. This is going to be a good one, dude. I love the Iron Man movies, and I love Tom Cruise, so today's episode is perfect. Let's get into it.
I am Iron Man.
When we think of Iron Man, we think of Robert Downey Jr. His performance is so in sync with the character that it basically built the Marvel Cinematic Universe from scratch. But what if Tony Stark had belonged to another Hollywood giant? What if Tom Cruise, Mr. Ethan Hunt himself, the man who hangs off airplanes for fun, had been the one to don the red and gold armor? Well folks, it almost happened. And in that alternate reality, the MCU we know today might look very, very different.
Oh, it's good to be back.
See, back in the late 90s, the idea of a cinematic Iron Man was already bouncing around Hollywood. Fox held the rights, and at one point, Cruise was in serious talks to star and even produce a film. It made sense on paper. He was one of the biggest box office names in the world, and Iron Man was a character who needed star power to overcome his status as a B-list comic book hero. You heard that right, folks. Once upon a time, Iron Man was a B-list Marvel character. But there was a problem. Tom Cruise came with a price tag, and in that era before Marvel movies were guaranteed moneymakers, Fox balked at the cost. This made the project stall. And from there, the Iron Man rights were passed around like a hot potato. New Line picked it up in the early 2000s and had writers like Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, of Pirates of the Caribbean fame, and even Joss Whedon take swings at drafts of scripts. Al Gough and Miles Miller, who later created Smallville and Netflix's Wednesday, spent a year working on an Iron Man script with Cruise still at the top of the wish list. But studio execs scratched their heads at the concept. Iron Man can fly, but Superman flies, one allegedly said. That version crashed before it could even take off, and by 2005, the rights returned to Marvel, Jon Favreau signed on to direct, and a different kind of star was waiting in the wings, and the rest is history.
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
And what do you say to your other nickname, the Merchant of Death?
That's not bad.
In a 2005 IGN interview, Cruise stated, quote, "I needed to be able to make decisions and make the film as great as it can be, and it just didn't go down that road that way." So what would a Tom Cruise Tony Stark even look like? Robert Downey Jr. gave us a Tony Stark who was broken but funny and improvisational. He was a genius who didn't just build his suits but also built his persona around sarcasm and deflection, a different kind of armor. Favreau encouraged Downey to riff and improvise, giving the first film a loose, jazzy feel. It worked, and nobody knew exactly what kind of universe Marvel was building, but they did know it was off to a good start. Now Cruise, by contrast, is not loose. In fact, he is the king of control. As a producer, he designs movies like precision machines. His Stark would have been less about messy brilliance and more about tactical genius. Imagine Mission Impossible's Ethan Hunt in a flying suit of armor. Every repulsor blast and cave escape would be choreographed to the millisecond. The humor would still be there, and Cruise could have given his trademark smirk, but it would have been a leaner, steelier Tony Stark.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
The cave escape sequence, I mean, instead of quick cuts and a splash of CGI, Cruise would insist on building a functional flamethrower and staging it in a single insane shot. Or what about the battle with Obadiah Stane? Forget two clunky CGI robots duking it out, it would be an industrial cat and mouse chase across cranes and smokestacks with Cruise sprinting, jumping, and dangling off of real machinery. The MCU's first chapter would have looked more like a techno thriller than a freewheeling hangout movie. And folks, ain't nothing wrong with that. If Cruise had strapped into the Mark I, the ripple effects on the MCU just would have been massive. Cruise's Iron Man would have set the franchise on a more serious path from the very beginning, and the loose improvisational comedy that became Marvel's signature might have never taken root. Instead, the MCU might have leaned harder into spycraft and sleek action.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
If Cruise was the face of Marvel, the franchise would have become a star vehicle right away. The no one believed in him underdog story of Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback would be erased, and so would the scrappy energy that defined Marvel's early gamble. Instead of a miracle alignment of risk and reward, it would have been a calculated Cruise production, complete with immaculate set pieces, but perhaps less soul. Plus, Tony's arc would shift as well. Downey's Stark was compelling because he was deeply flawed. His ego, addictions, and recklessness made his journey toward heroism messy and human. Cruise's Stark likely would have been hyper-competent. Even his flaws would have played as obstacles to overcome through sheer willpower. Instead of a spiraling alcoholic Tony, you'd have a man who just disciplines his way out of it, and it just wouldn't be the same. The idea of Cruise as Iron Man never fully went away though. For years, fans imagined what it would look like. When Marvel's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness hit theaters, rumors swirled that Cruise would cameo as a variant Iron Man. Writer Michael Waldron admitted he pitched the idea, but it never materialized. It remained a what if, in the truest sense. Cruise himself has been candid about the whole saga. He said he was, quote,
Not close. Okay. Not close. You know, and I love Robert Downey, and I can't imagine anyone else doing that role. And I think it's perfect for him.
Coming from one of the most calculating stars in Hollywood, that's as close to a definitive answer as we'll get. Now, the answer to whether it would have worked is yes, obviously. But it would have been a very different MCU. Cruise would have delivered breathtaking action and grounded set pieces and possibly even have launched bigger at the box office out of the gate. But the trade-off would have been tone. Instead of the playful, improvisational energy that made the MCU feel alive, we would have gotten a franchise with a colder, more technical personality. Robert Downey Jr. was the embodiment of Tony Stark, at the time when his own career was in shambles. There's a reason that Downey gave us a cultural phenomenon in Iron Man.
Yeah, I can fly.
And folks, an important aspect of all of this to remember is what movies Tom Cruise wouldn't have made had he played Iron Man. Let's assume production went smoothly and Tom Cruise went into production on Iron Man in the year 2000. Assuming he was able to squeeze Mission Impossible 2 in there, because I think they were filming that one as early as like 1998, this would mean that had Tom Cruise played Iron Man, he definitely would not have been able to star in Vanilla Sky. That might not be a big deal to some of you, but I personally think that movie is incredibly underrated. And assuming that a Tom Cruise Iron Man film would have had the intended impact, this would mean that a sequel would immediately go into production and we would not be seeing Tom Cruise in Minority Report. For all the dads out there, I know that one would sting. And sure, Tom Cruise playing Iron Man might have spared us The Last Samurai, but it definitely would have meant no Collateral and no War of the Worlds. And look, the list continues. Think of any great Tom Cruise movie, which is almost all of them over the years, and just assume that either an Iron Man film or an Avengers film would have kept that movie from starring Tom Cruise. And then you have to think about what that means for Robert Downey Jr., whose entire career comeback was hinged on this one film. Sure, he kicked ass in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Or actually, I think it's like the lack of kicking ass.
fuck?
But the point is, this is the movie that really brought his career back. The Robert Downey Jr. that we know and love today, you know, the Oscar-winning Robert Downey Jr., deserves all of the success he has because of his commitment to his characters. But I think that a lot of Hollywood would have never taken another chance on him had they not seen Iron Man. So in effect, just by looking at it that way, I'm almost glad that we never got a Tom Cruise Iron Man film. So, what happened to Tom Cruise as Iron Man? Well, the short answer is money, timing, and taste. The studios weren't ready to bankroll Cruise's vision, and by the time Marvel was, the stars had already aligned for Downey instead. But it is fun to imagine what could have happened if Ethan Hunt was wearing the Iron Man suit. In another timeline, it belonged to Tom Cruise, and the MCU might have looked like a 2-hour IMAX stunt reel. Either way, the suits fly, the crowds roar, and Hollywood history gets made, just in two very different directions.
I am Iron Man.
Well, folks, let me know what you think about all of this, and definitely let me know if you think Tom Cruise might still make a cameo as Iron Man in the MCU somewhere. I think I've let go of it. Don't get me wrong, I would be stoked. I would probably roar in laughter just like everybody else in the theater, but I probably at this point wouldn't expect it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.